contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And hello, K-Man, and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm your host, Ellio Solomon. Like we just said, welcome to Straight Talk. Number to call here up in the studio is 745-2626. My colleague has all the WhatsApp information.
Or you can also dial us on our WhatsApp number, as my colleague just stated. You can send us a WhatsApp voice note or a traditional WhatsApp message by dialing 928-2562. We are broadcasting live on your radio dial at Bobo 103.1 FM, reminding you once again to make that switch from 89.1 to 103.1. Come the end of the month, 89 will disappear, and we want to make sure you have us locked in on your radio dial on Bobo 103.1 FM. We're also simulcasting live over YouTube at Straight Talk Radio Show and on Instagram at The Rec Room 345. The phone lines are open, 745-2626, and it's going to be another open mic day here on the program. Ellio, I trust you had a wonderful day today. Happy Thursday. Almost the end of the week.
Happy Thursday to you too, buddy. I had one of those other interesting days. Very, very busy. Lots of meetings.
Yes.
And I'm kind of like mentally tired. You know what I mean? Like mentally exhausted. Yeah. All I can say is, I have a lot to say, but they're lucky out there that I have a day job, if you like. Because
if you sat around all day long thinking about this program and what you wanted to see.
If I could just focus on this program alone, there would be people out there passing bricks.
They would be. They'd be crying.
You know what I'm saying?
They'd be crying.
They would be crying. But I'm so busy during the day. It's like, I got so many things to do. I had like a million meetings this morning and all kinds of stuff, But either way, we're still going to get little chunks out of them today.
Well, hopefully as the show grows from one success to the next, thanks to our listening audience, we'll find more and more reasons to
time
captivate your attention and make you spend more time on this than anything else.
That's right. So help me help you spend more time right here. That's what I want you to do.
That's right.
Keep listening and keep telling everyone about it so that I can have nothing better to do than to watch what these people are doing and not doing and tell you all about it.
I have an observation.
What's that observation?
Looking awfully red today.
Yeah, hey.
I noticed that. I was looking and thinking, is it orange and I'm missing it? Is it a different color?
No, it's red today. It's red today.
It looks like bright red.
Yeah. Well, don't make
candy apple.
Don't make too many joins on that one.
Okay.
No,
what were those meetings today, Ellio? Do tell.
No, it's past.
Who were you meeting with?
It's past nomination day. In case you're alluding to something, my friend. And
I thought maybe you were getting the PPM on our program.
Well, you know how
for lack of trying.
You know how close how far back my relationship goes with that group.
Yes, I do know.
And how sweetheart we all are. So I don't think that's happening right now, Bobo.
Easy on that
hoop. No, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I got a couple of friends in there, but there's some of the star players, that are not necessarily in my court.
Yes.
So let's leave it at that.
Let's just leave it right there. Obviously, from a show perspective, we're eager to hear from all sides, and we have extended invitations for the
we look forward
PBM to join our program. Very, very good show last night with Heyman Rankin of the Camelon's National Party. I thoroughly enjoyed it as hosts, and I've managed to speak to a few listeners who likewise really enjoyed it.
And speaking of what is it? National Party. There's another one. Like, couldn't we just shorten this? What's up with these names? Anyway, I'm thinking NP, National Party.
National Party.
And I'm thinking
CINP. It rolls off the tongue much easier.
What's that?
CINP, Cayman Islands National Party.
I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to go banging up their names, but I don't know.
You don't know? NP, just NP.
I keep it simple in a National Party. And, if you want to make it CNP, then fine. But then the TCC, I mean, that one just completely twists my tongue and my head around.
It's very difficult to get the T out and then say the rest of it without fumbling.
I mean, I never thought the day would come that I would actually say, PPM. It kind of just rolls off. It's like, has the day arrived that I actually say this?
It just rolls off the tongue so easy.
Yeah.
If you rush out and buy a red shirt, I mean, geez,
what happened to the days of,
really
PPM, UDP, RFP, something. Now we're getting into 4 letters. If this continues in about six more terms, we'll be somewhere around what is that one called? Carrier Sense Multiple Access Collision Detection? In technology, we had a name like that. Carrier Sense Multiple Access Collision Detection. Apparently, it was an Ethernet protocol. So I think we'll soon be at that stage with these part of names if it continues.
Well, we definitely need an acronym for that last one, and hopefully we'll find a
Carrier
acronym.
Sense Multiple Access Collision Detection. I used to be able to have that off the top of my head. But either way, speaking of the Cayman Islands National Park, I should mention in the spirit of transparency that Mr. Bud Johnson,
yes,
I don't know if he dropped by my house, but his paraphernalia did.
Okay, you had a visit, did you?
Yeah, somebody dropped a visit in my area, Georgetown East.
Yes, you would be.
So he's doing his rounds.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can anticipate there's going to be a lot more of that as we draw ever closer to Election Day. But again, great interview with Heyman Rankin last night. Hopefully the listening audience enjoyed it as much as we did. And again, certainly if you want to hear more of your candidates in your constituency, well, encourage them to reach out to Straight Talk and get their you-know-whats in the not-so-hot seat. As we stated before, we are striving to not create a gotcha environment, but quite to the contrary, give every candidate a fair shake.
Guess what else I have to say?
Yes, go ahead.
So I had a chance to listen to a little bit of the debates in Savannah last night.
Savannah or Newlands last night?
Wasn't it?
Newlands.
Yeah, again, too many divisions.
Yeah. There you go, those lines.
I have mentioned it before, yeah.
Yeah, no, Newlands last night.
Mm-hmm. So I don't mean it. I don't mean it as a pun when I say it was a heavy debate.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, I can't help myself.
You are on fire today, buddy.
So it was truly a bunch of heavyweights.
It was it was a heavy debate. Well,
but actually, I do want to say, my 2 favorites were Al and in no particular order.
Yes.
And what's his name, Raul.
Yes.
Raul, I like Raul.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of like his
The style.
Yeah.
His direct nature.
And first of all, I like the fact that he doesn't mind sharing a little bit of glory. Not just because he mentioned my name, but he did. Go look it up, hear my name mentioned.
Oh, no wonder you liked him so much.
No, but it extends beyond that.
See, candidates, that's the key to victory.
No, it extends beyond that. You see, because I want to tell you something. And this is where I'm encouraging voters. I remember when I was bringing the motion for human organ and tissue transplant, okay?
Yeah.
Human organ and tissue transplant, because prior to that, technically, if you woke up in the middle of the night with that horrible back pain, and then someone, that sat you down and told you that it looked like you have kidney failure, you would have to get in a long line of at least probably 95,000 people in order to get an idea of how long you're going to take to get a kidney.
Uh-huh.
So the human organ and tissue transplant, when I was bringing the motion, again, even prior to committee stuff, I took the time out, for example, to give kudos, accolades to the then ex-minister for Health Services, Anthony Eden. I think you have, again, to look at the character of a person that is not afraid to lift up another person, as opposed to simply being another crab in the bucket that only knows how to tear someone down. So first of all, yes, I am going to mention it. Hopefully that doesn't somehow weaken and destroy my argument, but I am going to mention it because I think that takes strength to do. That's not a weak thing. That's a strength thing. Mm-hmm. But I like the fact that he's talking about, things like, again, investing the pensions into the country. That was, superb. I think it was good. Uh-huh. I think it's what the country needs. I like a lot of the answers that also came from, again, Alpha Sakub. Yes. I think they both made some good arguments. Not to knock on Mr. Panton, I think he made some good comments as well. But I think on the position, one, I note that he states he's completely against the cruise. Well, obviously that's not anything I want to hear.
Right.
On the other one, I think Alvin mentioned something to the effect that he was going to wait for the referendum.
Yes.
Let the public decide. Not too bad. A pretty neutral answer.
But he did also add another side of that. He suggested that when you remove the contribution from that, cruise berthing into our economy, that you're going to have to replace it with something. He said most likely we'll try to replace it with stayover.
Absolutely.
Which then means, we'll be building more hotels, more room stock. And I think he said that you might end up trading one bad thing for another in terms of development. And I think the reason he said that was obviously there's a lot of clamor about all of the development that's going on right now. But if you do lose cruise tourism and you choose to focus, as what many of the pundits would say, focus on stayover. Well, if we do that, you are accepting the fact that more hotels will need to be built.
Absolutely.
More development is going to be needed.
He had some very good answers.
So I thought that was a very good point to make.
Yeah, and be the judge for yourself. I mean, you don't have to listen to me. It's out there.
Yeah.
It's out there in I don't know. We don't say TV land anymore, so it's video land.
Yeah, it's on YouTube now.
It's out there in YouTube, video land. Have a look for yourself. But I thought they both gave some good answers. Again, note that Mr. Raul, he took a little bit of a deviation, but either way, he was willing, again, strength of character, to throw out some completely different ideas when it came to what you should do about the port. He's talking about, what do you call it, the quarries and stuff like that. Again, for what it's worth, I think it takes strength to throw out new ideas, as opposed to let's play it safe, go on the line, let's kind of hear what people are saying. I hear you, but I think you have to be a person that shows that strength of character to say, I'm thinking for myself. It doesn't mean that you can't listen, but you have some thoughts and ideas for yourself. I think both of them did really, really well, to be honest. I like the conversation.
Well, on your point about Raul Gonzalez's statement on cruise berthing, I hear what you're saying, that, certainly brave of him to take the route that he did, but not a new idea. He suggested, we should be thinking about, if we're building cruise berthing, we should be thinking about building it somewhere where there's a year-round safe harbor. And there are two places for that, either the North Sound, which is clearly out, but to his point, moving to the quarries in East End, where, again, one could be created. Again, that's possible, but
it's a big idea.
It's a big idea, but remember, it's the same one a long time ago. A certain East End MLA wanted to lay down in front of a bulldozer because to move to a quarry would require cutting, quote unquote, a channel through the main road. And
that was about the port.
Yeah.
With Imperado.
That's correct.
Right.
Correct. So Gonzalez went down that road, suggesting, because again, his basis was, if we're going to build cruise berthing, it should be in a protected harbor. And there are only two places for that. The North Sound, the naturally protected harbor in the country, which clearly is out of bounds, or a quarry in East End, but that is not without its own challenges.
Some of these radical objectioners, I would like to hear what they have to say about that one, but I know what the answer is. They came here to retire. Ladies and gentlemen. They don't want any development. Of course, they're trying to convince you that they're doing that all for you, you see.
Sure.
Our fight against development's all for you, Caymanians. And by the way, they keep telling you that, right? It's all for you.
Mm-hmm.
We're protecting you. Have you ever seen any of them objecting and going downtown and telling financial services and other places, objecting and saying, hire Caymanians, damn it, hire? No, you'd never hear that.
No, quite to the contrary. They need to be given special privileges to hire whoever they want to hire.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're protecting Cayman's overall global interest, and therefore financial services should operate as an entity unto itself.
These people, ladies and gentlemen, they are not for you. That's all I'm going to say. You can sit there and listen and think that they're objecting to docks in Aurora, docks at Hyatt, docks in the middle of town, doing it for you. That's absolute nonsense. But anyway, Mr. Harris, I know we have our little protocol for now for good news.
Well, we kind of blew over the good news by hitting the key takeaways, but I'm fine. That's good.
Oh, okay.
I just want to, since you made it,
give it to me to switch it up.
When we talk about Raul Gonzalez, and yet last night's Newlands Chamber Candidate Forum, obviously dancing presumably to a beat of a different drummer. One of the other standout moments to me was the question on the whole point system on the immigration, right to be, PR and then status and whatnot, while both Panton and Suku sort of erred on the side of caution, suggesting that the point system obviously needs a review. Both of those candidates suggested that whatever that review is, obviously we need to, put greater emphasis on Caymanian placement, Caymanian opportunities before we're looking at, status holders. But none went as far as Raul Gonzalez, and again, that's what I thought was his sort of direct, matter-of-fact way of speaking. He didn't get into a long engagement. He just simply said, forget the point system. We need a moratorium. No more granting of Cayman status. Put Caymanians at the forefront. End of story.
Yeah.
And really, at the end of the day, those sort of statements really require no explanation. It gets quite to the point rather quickly.
Well, like I said, I like his strength of character. It's very good.
Yes.
It's from my perspective. He has the bell. Hold on.
He does.
There you go.
He does. Well, it is 48 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. And before we get on to the good news, we need to pause and take a short commercial break.
Welcome the interruption.
Thank you. Welcome the interruption. And from there, we will start with some good news of the day. Part of that good news will be the tsunami exercise that was conducted today. If you didn't hear about it, well, don't worry. I'm going to tell you about it when Straight Talk returns right here only on Bobo 103.1 FM.
More Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio coming up. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Bobo FM.
Hey man, could it be you? Tortuga's 10K giveaway is back, and someone's walking away with $10,000 in cash. Every time you spend $25 at Tortuga Fine Wine and Spirits or discount liquors, in-store or online at tortuga.ky, you get a shot at winning big. As well as $10,000 in cash, we've got thousands in giveaways to hand out every week. Think staycations, the latest iPhones, exclusive experiences, and more. Get in to win. Visit tortuga.ky for the full terms and conditions.
The countdown is on for Capella Music Festival on Saturday, March 29th at the Festival Green, Camana Bay. An unforgettable experience and non-stop entertainment presented by Cayman Airways and Camana Bay, featuring international stars Ashanti, Clean Bandit, Gramps Morgan, Kamani Marley, and Elaine, Nyla Blackman, and DJ Puffy, alongside local artists and DJs across 3 stages. Purchase at Tier 1 pricing while supplies last at CapellaMusicFestival.com or in-store at Blackbeard's, AA Rubis, FIS MoneyGram, Winter Circle, Tortuga, and Sings Roadie Shop. Capella Music Festival, Saturday, March 29th. A true festival experience. Brought to you by the Cayman Islands Department of Tourism, the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Hopscotch Productions, Bacardi, Massive Equipment, Barreau Development, and Stingray Media.
Welcome back to Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio. Have your say on 745-2626. Bobo FM.
And welcome back, Cayman, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM and simulcast live on YouTube and Instagram. We're your host, Ellio Solomon, myself, Austin Harris. And the phone lines are open, 745-2626, on this otherwise open mic Thursday, where we really don't have any guests scheduled for today, but we do have a number of topics that we'd like to touch on. But as always, you can either join the topics of discussion or you can take us in entirely a different direction. The ball is in your court as far as the listening audience is concerned. We were just recapping, obviously, the key takeaways from last night's Newlands debate. And I just want to say, where was it? Tonight, we have the debates moving to the constituency of Red Bay. Whilst, as my colleague stated, it was definitely a night of the heavyweights in Newlands last night, it's going to be a full house in Red Bay tonight. We have, I think, 5 candidates debating. Count them down with me. We've got, for the PPM, we have Roy Tatum. For the CINP, the Cayman Islands National Party, we have Don Thomas. Mm-hmm. For the TCCP, we have Miss Natasha Whitelock. And for the independent side, is that 3? Yeah. So for the independent side, we have Philip Banks and Mr. Leon Gould.
Leon Gould. This is all Red Bay?
That's all Red Bay for tonight.
5. Wow. Talk about a handful.
Yeah, indeed. We do have a caller on the line. Let's go to the phone lines. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, Austin.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you're there?
He is.
Yeah, I want to thank him for being at the Seafarers last Tuesday evening.
All right, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And my little input is that they keep touching on that dock because we want that dock. We need the dock.
All right.
Austin, it's a long time a seaman, and I know what a dock means to us.
Yes, sir.
Our court of arms tells you in the Cayman Islands, or court of arms. People might not understand what our coat of arms signifies, but that's what it signifies. We are built on the sea.
Yeah.
Our future, our heritage are the sea.
Yes.
We need that dog. People might not understand, but we need the dog. I mightn't vote for the other two, the ganja and the gambling, because we are also a God-fearing country.
I understand.
But the dog is necessary. That's our heritage. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you very much, caller. And certainly
greatly appreciate
grateful
that
for
call.
your support for the referendum on the cruise berthing facilities. Again, a democratic.
He has
privilege.
founded it upon the seas.
That's right. I'm glad to hear that you're supporting it, and certainly you're entitled to your viewpoint on that and the other two questions, which, of course, we also have to respect, much like we said the day before yesterday. I respect it when people take a position and they defend that position.
Right.
When they hem and haw and go on both sides of the fence, we call it jackie both sides. I don't have no time for them kind of people. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. And I think I made that clear the other day. Anyway, so good news with 5 minutes left. More than 8,000 students participated in today's Carib Wave Tsunami Exercise, which was hosted by Hazard Management Cayman Islands. According to an article that appeared in the local media, for a number of years, the schools have been required to have an emergency response plan in place, and those plans now include response actions for a significant regional earthquake and, of course, a tsunami, according to Miss Danny Coleman, Director of Hazard Management Cayman Islands. Today's simulation was an opportunity for the schools as well as local businesses who signed up to take part in the exercise to test those earthquake and tsunami response plans and evacuation procedures. I heard, but it wasn't stated in the press release, and I'm glad because I didn't get any sort of alarm on my phone. I heard they were going to give that, the warning bell.
I like all your movements.
That horn. Somehow that was going to be interrupted, like a text message. You just get a long, but that didn't happen. And I was going to, complain, saying, "Wait, you didn't. That didn't happen."
Where was the
but that
horn?
wasn't part of the plan, apparently.
Where's the horn, Austin?
Quite right. There was no horn today. Apparently, the exercise today involved the use of Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the National Emergency Notification System. So that included interrupting radio stations with an alert message and also issuance of a message on the emergency notification app, which I did receive. I think I received a total of 4 emergency notifications on the app. I think it's the Ad Hoc app, if I'm getting the name right. But certainly I was made aware of both the exercise, the potential earthquake, and of course, this time notified immediately of the tsunami warning as the earthquake happened, as opposed to our criticism over the last time when it really happened. By the time the email came through, theoretically, the tsunami would have already washed us away.
Awashed.
But they are working on it, and obviously the goal behind today's exercise was to fine-tune it, obviously, learn from past mistakes and keep making it better and better, more resilient. I think this is good news. I certainly want to support the efforts of Hazard Management Cayman Islands under both Miss Danny Coleman, who I think has done a tremendous job over the years, and obviously, of course, supported by the Honorable Deputy Governor Franz Manderson, who, like we like to oftentimes say, this ain't his first rodeo either in this regard. But I think the whole leadership of Hazard Management Cayman Islands in either an exercise or a real-time event has really been fine-tuned over the years. Certainly we get enough exercise with annual hurricane season. But I just want to congratulate Hazard Management, and I think the involvement of school children in particular is also another notable feather in their cap. Again, there was
kudos
a time
to our friend Coleman is what you're trying to say.
Yes, I have to kudos.
You
to
leave my
Miss
friend
Danny.
Coleman alone.
No, I will not harm her at all.
There you go.
At all. I would only seek to give her roses while she is alive.
Hey, I like that.
But
Quote.
if you did receive an ad hoc message and you did know about today's tsunami alert, well, that certainly was what took place today If you didn't, well, it didn't last long. The exercise from start to finish was about an hour and a half, started at 10 o'clock. Arguably, one of the few things in government that actually started on time. The first report, emergency broadcast went out right at 10 o'clock, if not at the stroke of 10 o'clock. I don't know, I didn't particularly monitor what time it ended, but it was over by 11:30, and from all indications, it was a successful exercise. So,
all right.
Again, kudos to Hazard Management, kudos to our mutual friend, Miss Danny Coleman, and of course, all of those involved in the emergency exercise today that was conducted, both in terms of earthquake readiness and naturally a new phenomenon, a new threat to the matrix tsunamis.
Yep. Yeah, thank you for that, Austin. You know, and I thank the caller for calling in about the presentation the other night, because it's a good opportunity to me to bring it up in the spirit of transparency, Austin.
35 seconds.
35, 34. So I guess I'll just leave it till after the break.
No, you can speak.
But I will say this, Austin. You know, when you made your joke about straddling the friends, it reminded me of those little book jokes we used to make, you know, like The Yellow River by I.P. Daly.
Yes.
And then they had the other one was Straddling the Friends, or Blood on the Fence by Alfred Hitchcock.
Very good.
Okay, I just thought I'd mention that before.
Your memory is superior. I've said it before. I'll say it again. 745-2626. The phone lines are open. We're going to pause. Go off to the BBC News. But don't go anywhere. There'll be more Straight Talk still to come on Bobo 103.1 FM.
How can we understand the world better?
The BBC World Service is a window onto the wider world.
The vantage point from which
Views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, man. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon, and of course, Straight Talk. See, I almost got it again. One of those gotcha moments.
Almost.
It's because I'm thinking about that red shirt accusation you were putting on me. How dare you?
And I'm thinking about, how easily the word PPM just rolled off your lips. I'm thinking, wow.
Like I said,
who knew?
Who would have thought?
The day would have come.
Who would have thought? So, I want to touch on the caller. I got cut off, this rude 35-second thing.
Sorry.
Never mind. He called in and talked about me chatting with the seafarers. I was honored the other night. This is why I wasn't able to attend the CPR meeting. By the way, CPR stands for cardiopulmonary resuscitation. But, when you need resuscitation, kind of like your heart flutters and then you have a heart attack and then you're just about there to die.
Mm-hmm.
So bottom line is, I wanted to attend that meeting. I wanted to inject a question or a statement or two that, might have loan a little bit of sense to the nonsense, for the importers and exporters there. But nevertheless, I couldn't because I had to attend the seafarers meeting and chatting with the seafarers. And I want to talk about it just briefly, now that the callers brought it up. It was a privilege. And I sat there in the chair, and let's understand, because these are some of the things that it happens in our society, but we don't take the time out to really appreciate it. And for anyone who's listened to some of the stories from our seafarers, I think we need to understand a bit more about what's in our blood.
Yeah.
Right? Because we don't, I sat and I looked at a wall, and I saw on that wall a short notice that said, mail shipments. I'm not quoting, I'm paraphrasing.
Okay.
Mail shipment from Tampa 3 times a year.
Okay.
And I'm like, wow. How far we have come.
Yes.
Then there was the tolling of the bell because apparently 4 of them had now passed away. And unfortunately, this is
seafarer tradition.
This is the reality, right? You ring the bell. One of your colleagues, one of your comrades have passed away.
Yes.
But I think it's important to understand that we come from a history of people, history of men and strong women.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a case of these men were not, Austin, drafted. Nobody forced them to go on these ships.
Yeah.
And they weren't even men. Some of them were 15, 16 years old. You couldn't drink a beer today.
That's right.
Couldn't buy a pack of cigarettes.
That's right.
And they were not drafted, not forced. Some of them even lying to their parents. Like, I'm going over to the Brac to look for Aunt so-and-so, and slipped away, went to New York, went on a ship.
You gotta imagine that scenario.
No.
He'd been gone a long time, but 6 months.
And I was told this by a seaman, how he lied to his father.
I've heard similar stories.
Okay, to get on a ship.
Yes.
They were excited about being on a ship.
Yes.
And being far away from home and out to sea so long. I don't know about anyone else, but I went on a ship. In fact, it was one of the tenders.
Uh-huh. Okay.
It was one of the cruise tenders during Hurricane Paloma.
Yes.
You and I were together then.
Yes.
And I went on that ship. That took about 24 hours, and I don't know. I didn't want to get on another ship.
I'll tell you that. Yeah.
So I hazard
on board on them high seas was not quite what you signed up for.
It wasn't what I signed up for. I mean, it wasn't a bad trip, but I was just sitting there. I'm looking at the moonlight, the ocean, but I'm sitting and saying, how much water is there out there?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I sit and I look at our seamen, and I'm saying, these men were out to sea weeks, months before you saw in the port.
Yes.
We come from a strong line, and this is why during our campaign on ACT, I made it clear. We had a poster. The Caymanian story began with a ship.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just praying to God it doesn't end with a ship, at least not end negatively or badly with a ship.
Yeah.
I hope it ends with a good one.
Yeah.
But I admire the seamen for all that they're doing, and I thank them for inviting me to come there and to chat with them about cruise tourism. And I would like to believe, I didn't run a poll, but I'd like to believe that a lot of them in there are in support of it. Mm-hmm. And I want to share that with the listening public, that our fathers, our forefathers, I believe, would stand there and say, this is precisely what we need to do. And I saw that in the eyes, I believe, of the majority of persons that were there. And that is our history. So when that gentleman calls in and says, this is our history, this is what we're about, mm-hmm. I think that himself is a seafarer. This is what we're about. Nope. And I want to encourage Caymanians. I'm not telling you, if you think I am, feel free. We'll give you an invite into the studio. I'm not knocking anyone, but I'm telling you that we need cruise tourism, and a lot of these people that are campaigning against it, welcome yourself onto the South Sound chat in case you don't believe me. Please have an invite. Mm-hmm. And listen to some of the nonsense. They're campaigning against anything that grows, anything that goes out in the water, anything they can think about. It's because they're here for retirement and they don't want any development. It's not for you. I'm telling you that's the case. And Austin, you know what I wanted to chat about just briefly? I didn't want to talk about it, but it happened a couple of days ago.
Well, before you finish, before you leave this subject.
Okay, you want to stay on it. I like that. Go ahead.
No, I just want to stay on it very briefly. First of all, to your point, when the just objection, as I said also on Monday or Tuesday, a hard no is not a conversation. Mm-hmm. It's a viewpoint. But many on the CPR side of the fence just have and operate under a hard no. But one of the things I did notice coming out of the CPR meeting, which was held last night at Constitution Hall, they oftentimes charge of misinformation going out in the public domain, particular to those who may support cruise berthing. But I did observe some misinformation that was being perpetuated by CPR itself when they were using an ancient cruise port plan as the basis for why this is a bad idea. They were using, and one of the slides they presented was a 2015 Meisner Marine proposal for cruise berthing facilities. And again, how that is completely false is that we have, the conversation on cruise berthing, as you know, and certainly as the members of the listening audience know, have been going on for decades, 20 years. Easy.
20 years.
But we have also advanced those conversations in the sense that we've, taken what were some of the initial proposals and improved upon them based on the legitimate criticisms that come in terms of, well, we want to move away from solid concrete structures, as is the case in Hogstye Bay today, and move towards more of a piling-based system, much like that which is operated in Cayman Brac and certainly seen on the more recent proposals for cruise berthing, particularly the ones that were shared in the public domain just 5 years ago with the PPM and the Verdant Island Cruise Partners. I just think it was just unfortunate, but it is misinformation to perpetuate that the proposals that may currently be on the table, although they argue that there's not enough information,
right?
And we argue that, when there was too much information, it was still a hard no, and now there's no information, and it's still a hard no. But I digress. But they are arguing and supporting their argument using false data, using old or dated cruise plans, which nothing could be further from the truth. There is no Meisner Marine plan. There is no solid concrete structure. That has since been improved. And again, I add that that improvement came about because of the objections that were raised. So it goes to show, again, to make the case that we can disagree without being disagreeable, but if we're willing to have a conversation, we might actually learn something from each other, because there are fair points to be offered up on both sides, but it's how we approach that conversation. Are you willing to be flexible? Should you be presented with alternative information? And again, that doesn't always seem to be the case, and certainly last night that was not the case. And they are certainly guilty of some of the same things. So
you had a chance to go there, or you watched on the...
I watched.
Yeah.
I watched.
I know, amazing. I didn't get to... I only got a piece of... to watch Ms. Dukaran's speech, which I'm analyzing. I hope to chat about it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I had to watch it afterwards because I was at this meeting at the same time. It's like, what timing? But maybe God was saving me. You don't go down to that meeting here.
I was hopping in between it, and of course, I particularly wanted to watch the Newlands debate last night, and that was happening obviously at the same time. Though the CPR meeting did start earlier, I think if memory serves correct, people started getting there about 4:30, and they may have had a 5 o'clock start time. The debates didn't start until 7:15, so there was some lead time.
And needless
but
to
obviously,
say,
we were on the air, so I wouldn't have started watching until after 7 anyway.
And I am frankly, quite disappointed that from everything that I've seen, what the presentation was by Ms. Dukaran or Marla, because she talked about the lack of data. And I would expect that as a person, learned individual in terms of doing research, and she talked about the shortcomings with respect to data. But at the same time, you don't reach out to ACT. You don't say, well, let me check them, see what data they have.
But
But at the same time, it's you've got stuff supposedly from Caribbean Marine Services, which is a tender business. But yeah, sorry, you go ahead.
I remember the first part of the statement being that there was a time when there was a shortage of data, but I thought I heard her mention, again, I'm paraphrasing, but I thought I heard her say that since then, there has been a wealth of information provided on the subject, hence why she was now being free giving.
On one hand, she did say, there was a lot of data.
Right.
And she's also calling for dialogue, but yet at the same time, I haven't had an invite. ACT hasn't had an invite for some dialogue. Yeah. It was a monologue. But either way, I want to be able to discuss it and ventilate it properly.
Yeah. Sure, absolutely.
Tal vez mañana, pues.
Okay.
Maybe tomorrow then.
Maybe tomorrow then. Well, speaking of maybe tomorrow then, and sort of do show planning, show prep live on the air.
Yeah, go ahead.
Obviously,
no one's listening. It's
obviously,
just
March, as we know, is International Women's Month in the Cayman Islands, and of course, we began celebrating.
I'm not coming in here with a dress if that's what you're talking about, Austin.
Come on.
I was running a joke. Come on, let's go with it.
Work with it. That dress and the hula hoop movements and everything.
I can do the hula hoop, but I don't want to do the dress.
But I digress. No.
Okay.
And of course, we launched it with International Women's Day on the 8th of March. I have been thinking since then, obviously, of trying to get another important organization. I want to get the Cayman Crisis Center on the air. And I reached out to their director today, who ironically just literally got back on the island, so we haven't really had a formal conversation. But if you are listening, I will be reaching out to you, if not tonight, then certainly tomorrow, with the view of inviting the Crisis Center on the program as part of International
I thought you were
Women's
going to
Week.
extend an invite to Marla Dukaran, who has done every show in the country except for hers for some reason. I don't know. It's an empty chair here.
No, I don't have her on speed dial, so that would probably be the only
Just make
reason.
a public pronouncement.
That would be the only reason why I didn't reach out to her. But certainly, just sharing with you that which I would otherwise share off air. Maybe tomorrow we might have an opportunity to chat with the Crisis Center.
Okay.
And I just want you to keep that in the back of your mind against the backdrop of your desire to ventilate these issues even further.
No problem.
You did want to take us in a different direction before I wanted to wrap up this conversation. So again, the floor is yours.
It's just going to be short.
Okay.
I saw this video, and I'm sure other person saw it going around with this, and somebody sent it to me. I didn't really want to comment, but I feel like if I don't, it'd be very un-Caymanian of me.
Okay.
But there's a Filipino lady knocking on the door, supposedly handing someone a summons,
Very distasteful.
Yeah, and let me just really say, if anyone thinks that, and from what I can gather from this is some Filipino lady. I don't really care if she's Filipino, Jamaican, Spanish. I don't care what nationality she is. She's working supposedly for some Caymanian company.
Yeah.
And if anyone thinks that treating someone in our midst that way somehow makes us more Caymanian, I'm very sorry for them, because in my humble opinion, I don't think that's the case. I think no matter what you have to do in your country, we can still be respectful.
Yes.
Right? Tomorrow I might have to make the decision and say, you know what, sorry, all of you need to pack your bags and go home. But I can still say it and do it very respectfully.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to be mean. I don't have to be ugly to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And so what we do and how we do something is extremely important. And I just do not believe that the person that I saw in the video was treated respectfully.
No.
Right?
Not even close.
And let's just say, I have 3 daughters. You have a son. We all have kids. And just imagine if our children are in some other country. Are you going to be happy if they're spoken to that way? I don't think so.
No.
And I'm raised with the good Caymanian hospitals to do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to make sure and clear that, get that off my conscience, get that off my head, because I don't want anyone in the world thinking that I condone that sort of behavior.
Sure, indeed.
All right?
And you mentioned, of course, doing the right thing. And again, I also saw the video. The only person doing the right thing in that video was the Filipino who was handing out a summons to the Caymanian, who thought it best to offer up derogatory comments to the messenger, and never once accepted the
whole substance of the summons.
Yes, the summons. Where I couldn't.
Let's not
lost
address
the
that
word there for a minute.
Yeah, no problem.
So she never actually accepted the summons, but she did spend a great deal of time berating, the messenger, and which of course I agree with you was in very poor taste, is not representative of all Caymanians, let alone the majority of Caymanians. But yeah, no, it was all very, very in poor taste.
Yeah, I mean, because I have some challenges too. Like I've said to you before, I think I said it on this talk show. God knows I say it. But I've had certain nationalities, again, whether it's fixing a car on the side of the road, there's all kinds of things going on. But it doesn't have to cause you. Worst case, call the police. Call the police, and we deal with these things. But at the end of the day, I think we need to try to do our best to be as respectful as possible.
Yes, no, absolutely. 22 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. Before we move on to our next subject, we do need to pause and take a very short commercial break. But do keep it locked. There will be a lot more Straight Talk still to come. The phone lines are still open, 745-2626. And we encourage members of the listening audience, if you have a concern, an issue that has been burning in your mind and you just want to get it off your chest, well, today is the opportunity, 745-2626. Keep it locked. There will be more Straight Talk still to come, only on Bobo 103.1 FM.
More Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio coming up. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Bobo FM.
Hey man, could it be you? Tortuga's 10K giveaway is back, and someone's walking away with $10,000 in cash. Every time you spend $25 at Tortuga Fine Wine and Spirits or discount liquors, in-store or online at tortuga.ky, you get a shot at winning big. As well as $10,000 in cash, we've got thousands in giveaways to hand out every week. Think staycations, the latest iPhones, exclusive experiences, and more. Get in to win. Visit tortuga.ky for the full terms and conditions.
The countdown is on for Capella Music Festival on Saturday, March 29th at the Festival Green, Camana Bay. An unforgettable experience and non-stop entertainment presented by Cayman Airways in Camana Bay, featuring international stars Ashanti, Clean Bandit, Gramps Morgan, Kamani Marley, and Elaine, Nyla Blackman, and DJ Puffy, alongside local artists and DJs across 3 stages. Purchase at Tier 1 pricing while supplies last at CapellaMusicFestival.com or in store at Blackbeard's, AA Rubis, FIS MoneyGram, Winter Circle, Tortuga, and Sing's Roadie Shop. Capella Music Festival, Saturday, March 29th. A true festival experience. Brought to you by the Cayman Islands Department of Tourism, the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Hopscotch Productions, Bacardi, Massive Equipment, Barreau Development, and Stingray Media.
Welcome back to Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio. Have your say on 745-2626. Bobo FM.
And welcome back to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM. We're your host, Ellio Solomon, myself, Austin Harris. And the phone lines are open at 745-2626. Or you can reach out to us via our WhatsApp number by sending us either a WhatsApp voice note or a traditional WhatsApp text message. And of course, we will share and read those comments live on the air. That number to call is 928-2562. And that'd be the WhatsApp number, or of course, our traditional 745 hardline, 745-2626. We want to move on to some other topics. There was a caller that was calling in during the break itself. I tried to accept the call, but rather than lose it, of course, but they didn't stick around. So if you're within the sound of her voice, we're back live on the air. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, we did get a WhatsApp text message. It said, "Hi, Austin. I would appreciate some clarity on something that's been on my mind. How many civil service employees are there? I understand that they are restricted from expressing political opinions or advocating for issues. Why is this? It seems to conflict with freedom of expression, a right every Caymanian should have. Would love to hear your thoughts. Well, I don't know the precise number of civil servants, but I would dare say it's up there, 3,000-4,000 number, maybe a little higher. But I can certainly look at the ESO and get a definitive hard number for you.
Sorry, what was the question?
The question was, why is it that civil service employees are restricted from expressing their opinions on political matters or advocating for certain issues, whether it be cruise berthing or national conservation or whatnot?
Well, we did comment about that, but yeah, go ahead. We'll finish it.
Yeah, I'll certainly just simply say that, the general rule is that civil servants obviously are responsible for carrying out the policy of various governments, especially now during an election time, when it's anybody's ball game and anybody could win. Imagine the potential conflict that could exist with a civil servant who's out there exercising their democratic right to vote and participate in an election process, highly supporting someone who did not win. The person who did win then went on to become minister, and somehow or the other is working in the same ministry as that civil servant. There would be a degree of animosity that perhaps government officials would like to avoid. So rather than have those ticklish situations between, obviously, the policymakers, the politician, and the soldiers, I call it, the ones who actually make that policy, turn it into action, the civil service, rather than create potential friction or conflicts between those two parties, they just simply make a hard and fast rule saying you can't participate in the political process. And until somebody comes up with a more logical or easy to understand explanation, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, and I would qualify participate because I'm sure that you're allowed to do certain things. I don't necessarily think that you were precluded from attending a meeting to hear what the candidates are saying.
Yeah.
But it would be a matter of understanding that as a civil servant, when you're going out to meetings, or all those candidates that are running are your potential bosses.
Yes.
And the last thing you would want is to be saying that you've taken up for one person over another, and someone even feeling that you will not be able to fulfill your objectives because I heard how you were campaigning for that particular person.
Correct.
And a lot of times, as they say in the legal system, not only must justice be done, but it must be seen to be done.
Yes.
And so we need to conduct ourselves in a proper way that when the person does come on board, whatever personal feelings you may have, whatever personal objectives you may have, they can be buried and seen to be buried, because what your objective is to fulfill the objective of whoever forms the government.
Indeed. And I thank you for making that distinction, because you're absolutely 100% correct. There's nothing precluding civil servants from attending meetings, whether it be a public meeting or a national issue meeting. Nothing wrong with that. Where the rules become more specific is the word active participation. Again, those are the reasons, and it seems legitimate to both of us.
Yeah.
But certainly to the caller, to the writer, hopefully that answers your question. We do have a caller on the line. Let's see if we can take that call now. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Hi. So you just made the comment that it could be anyone's game. And to that, I just want to ask you, since you've served in Parliament, how does that, what do you mean by that? There are certain districts where certain candidates have been elected for 10 plus years, where there's some districts where there's only one real candidate, and it's been determined even before the race is over. People are saying, oh, this person has no chance. This person won't get elected. What do you say about essentially career politicians who have made it their livelihood, who have been in Parliament for so many governments? How would you say that it's anyone's game when there's clear bias, not bias, but clear favoritism, clear winners that are already set before the election is even over?
Well, certainly to answer your question, I like the NFL. I like Sunday football. And there's a golden rule that says on any given Sunday, any team can win it. So I take your point. Whilst there may be favorites to win, and there have been career politicians that have won, it is anybody's game until the last vote is counted. Now to the overarching question, how should a civil servant participate or not participate? Again, my reasons are still the same. That same civil servant could potentially be supporting someone who is not the either expected or anticipated winner? And should they be working together, that could create problems for both parties, which we seek to avoid. There are very clear lines in the overall public service operational guide, and that's just one of them.
Okay, I fully agree with you about what the WhatsApp question writer came in with. Being able to not express your opinion, that's just a certain level of, it saves a lot of trouble in the future, and I see no problem with that. To that point, what do you, as someone who's been very involved in the political process, who's been through multiple governments, what would you say are potential solutions, potential workarounds, so that civil service workers have a greater degree of freedom while avoiding that problem of potential conflict in government?
I could definitely chime in there. I mean, one of the things that I did, I used to be a civil servant for, outside of being elected, I was a civil servant for 13 years. And back in the day, I started kpolitics.com. And one of the slogan that I had for K-Politics, and by the way, K-Politics was the forerunner for what you now see as CNS. And it offered persons the ability to reply, etc. The slogan at the time was, everyone has a voice. And I had that slogan because as a civil servant, I was there and saw a lot of things that I thought was not just, it wasn't right. And back in those times, we didn't have things like the whistleblower legislation, all those things did not exist. And it was my hopes that amongst other things in forming that website, that persons would be able to express their opinions, share information, share views to some extent, and help to influence things in a positive direction without necessarily being able to be identified. That was actually one of my objectives. I think now you have other things that allow civil servants to take certain actions in terms of revealing information that they might feel uncomfortable working under and with. So I'm not necessarily sure that I see a need at this particular point in time to do necessarily anything more. Because if you ask yourself, what is it that the civil servant is going to lend beyond anyone else out there? If we are in agreement that we want to make sure that neutrality is observed and exercised, then the question is, what else could you do as a civil servant that would influence things in a positive direction outside of that? Well, it would have to be about getting your comment or your voice or your experience out there. And there is avenues now that exist to be able to do that in a neutral, arguably unseen way that did not exist prior to.
Yes.
And so I'm not sure that you want them doing anything else. Do you have any other thoughts about it?
Yeah, I do. The thought of, as you said, having an ability to post anonymously, I see that as a very positive thing, as a way to maybe maintain that neutrality while giving civil service employees an outlet to,
we are in agreement.
Frustration. And quite honestly, that I have no other, thoughts about this. I don't see what else could be done, to maintain that neutrality. Cayman is such a small island that grudges, can go for generations, quite honestly, for decades, and it can lead to some real nasty things. So I guess my last question for you is, just to play devil's advocate here, do you think that they have too much freedom with their current restrictions in place to express their opinions?
Sorry, say that again. Who has too much freedom?
Civil servants.
Apologies. I said to play devil's advocate.
Okay.
Do you think that on the opposite end of it, that civil servants maybe have a too high a degree of freedom in their ability to express opinions, express their doubts, express their concerns?
Well, I don't think that they have definitely any more power per se in terms of the on the surface things, let's put it that way, the open things. I don't think they have any more power than the average guy, because the average guy has the same ability to go ahead and post things. Where the civil servant has a potential power is that, first of all, if you look at the number of civil servants, there's arguably a civil servant in every single home. And that civil servant, I would imagine, sharing his or her information would have a significant influence over the voting public. And this is one of the reasons why, to the career politicians that you talk about, pay raises and a myriad of different things are always exercised in order to try to get the civil servants speaking in a very positive way in their homes. And it has worked, fortunately or unfortunately, for quite a while. But I believe that, you know, when I started kpolitics.com, it was about being able to give them that ability. And I think it is a good thing. And I will stress again, all of these are some of the problems that I have with CNS, because I know that there are many persons, for example, who try to post replies, and once it's against their narrative, it's not posted. And I don't think that I think that's an abuse of power, to keep it simple.
Well, caller, thank you very much for your feedback. If there's nothing else, I'll ask you to leave us
excellent.
there.
Thanks for calling.
There's nothing else. Thank you for having me on this long.
Excellent.
Absolutely. Anytime. Feel free. We definitely want to hear from you and anyone else like you who has an issue, a thought, a consideration, and, again, is willing to engage in dialogue.
Absolutely. Again, that was really great. I thank you for calling.
Yes.
But, you know, it's a good thing. And as I've said before, when you get up there and you allow the public to be able to engage, and it's unfortunate that the reply system, if you like, the anonymity is normally just abused.
Yes.
You know, you rather than, again, many people using it in a constructive manner, it's abused. But there is a lot of information that civil servants can bring out there to the public in one way, shape, or another that should inform them if something is being abused, if there's something going awry within government. And you need to be able to have that. Again, things like whistleblowing legislation, which did not exist in the 90s when I started my website, right?
Yes.
And so this is where, again, I continue to stress, and not just to have the call CNS name, but when you have a site like that people are going to read, they're going to get information that's not accurate, and it's deliberately not accurate. Then on top of that, if someone is posting a reply to show the truth of the matter, and they're not allowed to have it posted because it doesn't fit your narrative, complete abuse of power.
Yes, sure, indeed. Well, again, the point behind the blogs is to do exactly that, encourage feedback and dialogue.
That's what you want.
Issues. And that's what you want. You don't want to start curtailing that outside, of course, respectable behavior, because there are some persons who will post all manner of evil, and some things just simply aren't fit for civilized conversation, frankly. But outside of that, now, whether it's, you know, in agreement with your narrative or not, it is someone's opinion.
Right.
And if you put yourself forward, as to your point, a true journalist caring about, obviously, you know, educating the wider masses.
Educating, enlightening, and elevating.
Quite right, indeed. Then you would welcome it.
No, absolutely. And I want to thank the caller. You know, first of all, I appreciate that for many persons, they're not necessarily willing to pick up the phone and speak public in any way. So I thank the caller for calling in, and again for raising this issue and showing that they're critically thinking about things, and also willing, in his opinion, to play the devil's advocate as well. And that's one of the things I want to encourage the public to do. You know, regardless of where you're hearing it from, critically analyze a lot of the things that you're having or you're hearing. You've been in your employment and you've heard terms, hopefully you've heard terms like constructive dismissal, okay? Let's just talk about employment. There's constructive dismissal. You're working for a particular boss and they want to get rid of you, but they're not going to come out and say, hey, you know, I just don't like you and I want to get rid of you. No, of course not. They're not going to tell you that unless they're, I don't know, one out of few. So they're going to start putting together a series of things, and they're going to work to constructively dismiss you.
Yes.
And you see the letters.
You're so fed up that you quit.
You see the letters starting, the different things. And this is, again, critical analyzing. I'm going to get back on one of my favorite subjects. Don't think that when someone is coming to you, and just because they're telling you that I'm doing you a favor, you know, I'm feeding you, I'm doing this for you. I really want you to analyze it and ask yourself, seriously, how am I benefiting from this? Today I sat in a restaurant, again, another meeting, and I'm looking outside at cruise ships. And I'm saying this with all seriousness. Looking at 2 cruise ships in the harbor, I'm looking down at a dock that I used to play on when I was at least 10 years of age. And that's 45 years ago, right? Just to give it away. I know I look 35 on a good day, but but it's a reality. I'm not there. So the bottom line of it is that I used to look at this. I'm looking at this dock I played on when I was 10. It's still there, that pier. And Austin, you know what I remember? I just I looked at every tourist that came here, and I really want the Caymanians, are you my age or young? I have no idea when this has changed. I looked at every foreigner that came to this country positively. Mm-hmm. You know, I remember fondly the smell of suntan oil, the Holiday Inns, you know, and I remember, you know, the Caymanians, they'd be doing different things. You know, be like, let's climb a coconut tree. We're doing backflips. It's like we're trying to entertain them. That was the day. Yeah. I watched some colleagues, some friends of mine lose their life doing that, actually. But the bottom line of it is, whether it was cruise tourists or whether it was stay-over visitors, everyone was welcome and everyone loved it. So I really just want to ask you, just like it's a myriad of different things in a similar fashion, where did this anti-foreigner, anti-cruise, anti-this, where did this come from? You know, and I'm telling you, I am telling you that this is not organic. This wasn't here. This was not here. It was not here. It was not here. And I want you to ask yourself, go ask your parents, go ask your grandparents, where in the world did this come from? Anyway.
Well, we do have
done for that for now.
A WhatsApp contributor, this time in the form of an audio note. Let's have a listen.
Good afternoon, Austin and Ellio. The topic about civil servants participating in politics has been addressed actually at very high levels. There was a case from Antigua, which went all the way to the Privy Council. This was a civil servant who had attended a demonstration against corruption. It was not a high-ranking civil servant, and he was dismissed. But the Privy Council said he shouldn't have been dismissed. He was expressing his freedom. He was exercising his freedom of expression. But they did make it very clear that this is a reasonable restriction they did say that this was a reasonable restriction on freedom of speech. When you think of it, I mean, there's no way that you can be, for example, a chief officer, deputy chief officer can get up and criticize a decision which is made by your superiors. It can't be. And it's just that with civil servants, it's very conspicuous because it's such a large group. But otherwise, this is a rule that applies to any institution. If you are a member of cabinet, you can't make a decision in cabinet and then oppose it. If you work for a company, you can't go out there and be part of the company and then go out there and criticize the company. So it is just one of those where the right, yes, exists to participate, but the participation has to take place in a context that does not conflict with your job. In fact, in Cayman, this rule is, in a sense, I think, a little bit relaxed. You have somebody like Charles Clifford, who was a politician, ran for LA and won and was a minister, and yet went back to go and become a civil servant. And I think that extra reasonableness which is exercised in Cayman, I think is appropriate because it's a very small place, and Caymanians are very few, and I think it's important that they should be given the maximum possible flexibility to participate in affairs in their country. Thank you very much. I hope this helps. Bye.
Yes, it certainly does, and I want to thank that listener for that remark as well. I failed to mention that point, but he is absolutely correct. Where the rules are more, and feel free to step in if you disagree, where the rules of obviously restrictions on civil servant become much more acute or specific is as it relates to high-level civil servants and decision-making capacities, chief officers, deputy chief officers, CFOs and the like. But rather than create an environment where there are different sets of rules for different types of people or different levels of people, the decision was simply taken, again, to maintain neutrality at all levels. One rule, one size fits everyone. And again, I thank the listener for sharing that point, but certainly he was accurate.
Yeah. No, I think that is indeed the case. And it happens as well with the salary increases, Austin.
Yes. No, it certainly does.
That was a little campaign joke. But either way, I mean, yeah, I think the rules that exist right now for the civil servants, I think generally speaking is good. If someone has an issue that I haven't thought about, please let me know. But whistleblowing legislation. Again, you can participate in the meetings by attending, and even your presence has an influence, you know?
Right.
Especially depending on the position you hold.
No, indeed. 46 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. Gives us about 13 minutes or so before we have to pause and go off to the BBC top of the hour news. But we do have to pause once again for a short commercial break. But keep it locked. The phone lines remain open, 745-2626, on this otherwise open mic Thursday here on Straight Talk, brought to you by Bobo 103.1 FM.
More Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio coming up. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Bobo FM.
Hey man, could it be you? Tortuga's 10K giveaway is back, and someone's walking away with $10,000 in cash. Every time you spend $25 at Tortuga Fine Wine and Spirits or discount liquors, in-store or online at tortuga.ky, you get a shot at winning big. As well as $10,000 in cash, we've got thousands in giveaways to hand out every week. Think staycations, the latest iPhones, exclusive experiences, and more. Get in to win. Visit tortuga.ky for the full terms and conditions.
The countdown is on for Capella Music Festival on Saturday, March 29th at the Festival Green, Camana Bay. An unforgettable experience and non-stop entertainment presented by Cayman Airways in Camana Bay, featuring international stars Ashanti, Clean Bandit, Gramps Morgan, Kamani Marley, and Elaine, Nyla Blackman, and DJ Puffy, alongside local artists and DJs across 3 stages. Purchase at Tier 1 pricing while supplies last at CapellaMusicFestival.com or in-store at Blackbeard's, AA Rubis, FIS MoneyGram, Winter Circle, Tortuga, and Sing's Roadie Shop. Capella Music Festival, Saturday, March 29th. A true festival experience. Brought to you by the Cayman Islands Department of Tourism, the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Hopscotch Productions, Bacardi, Massive Equipment, Barreau Development, and Stingray Media.
Welcome back to Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio. Have your say on 745-2626. Bobo FM.
And welcome back, Cayman, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM, where the phone lines remain open at 745-2626. Or if you don't want to spend those valuable credit, then by all means, you can reach us on our WhatsApp number at 928-2562. And from there, you can either choose to leave us a WhatsApp audio note, as did the last contributor, or you can send us a traditional WhatsApp text message, and we will simply read your messages live whilst we're on air. Whether you want to ask us a question that is either off topic or is on topic, well, again, the floor is always yours. And unless we're really, really into our ventilating session, we will usually pause and give the caller the priority. Yes?
Absolutely.
All
and
right.
I was going to say, my mind was on why is it that people can't hold? I mean, you're not like we're trying to get them to hold even 10 minutes.
No.
It's like, is there...
A minute,
Are
30
the calls
seconds
expensive
maximum.
or something? Did the price of calls go up or something?
I don't know.
No, I don't know.
I don't know.
Share it with us.
Yes. Right,
What
share
exactly
with
is
us.
it?
Well, do you have somewhere else you want to go? If not, I do.
No, go ahead.
Well, just, again, a story that's plucked from the headlines. And since we're, being bold and courageous, I figured why not...
I love that.
Why not pick this one up as well? Mm-hmm. So there's an article that appeared this week in the Cayman Compass under the title, Privy Council Deliberating on Cayman Same-Sex Union Legislation. Mm-hmm. And again, just as usual, just for a few snippets to set the context. The legal battle to squash Cayman same-sex union legislation has reached its final stage before the UK's Privy Council, where 5 judges will determine whether former Governor Martin Roper overstepped his role when he enacted the Civil Partnership Act in 2020. That legislation, which gives same-sex couples the legal equivalent to marriage rights, has been challenged by lawyer Katina Anglin, who believes that Roper's actions were unlawful and therefore is seeking a judicial review to rescind the law. The matter has wound its way through the Cayman Islands Grand Court and Court of Appeal, both which dismissed it. The Court of Appeal had also dismissed the application by Anglin to take her case before the Privy Council, but she succeeded nonetheless in applying directly to the UK court to be heard. On Tuesday, the 18th of March, the matter came before the jurisdiction's highest appeals court. There, Anglin's legal team argued that Roper used his reserve powers to push through the legislation, a version of which had been rejected earlier by the then Legislative Assembly, now Parliament, was beyond his remit. At the heart of the civil dispute are two questions. Did Section 81 of the Cayman Islands Constitution order give the governor the power to enact the civil partnerships law? And if not, what is the appropriate relief? Well, I just have two thoughts on this matter. In the first instance, the governor at the time did not enact a version of that which was rejected by Parliament on either the day or the same day of. The governor chose to enact the exact thing that Parliament debated, was presented by the government, but was rejected by the overall Parliament. And why is that significant? And again, I was part of the government at the time who brought this legislation, so I think I can speak to a degree of authority on it. The goal obviously was to create a degree of rights and equality, if you will, to same-sex couples without having to change the Constitution and the definition of marriage, which the UK most certainly would have sought to do had the Cayman Islands government, at the court's recommendation, not found a fix to this otherwise tumultuous, sensitive issue here in the Cayman Islands. Also, I will add that there were previous attempts prior to the last administration in bringing this issue. All of them failed. The issue is not a popular one. But what was significantly different, certainly in 2020, that was different in previous occasions. In previous occasions, it was always foreign nationals seeking to demand that right, particularly work permit holders who would come here from a jurisdiction where same-sex partnerships and same-sex unions are as commonplace as drinking and driving, but certainly wanting to add their spouse, which would have been a same-sex spouse, to their work permit, dependent status. We, as a country, certainly didn't have the taste or the desire to engage in that because, quite frankly, we acknowledge that the country did not support that move. But in this instance, this wasn't about foreign nationals asking us to grant equality and civil liberties, but it was, in fact, two Caymanians. So it was an us-on-us question that deserved and warranted an answer, but also because we were well aware. The matter went before the court, and the court said simply, there is no item in law that would seek to answer this, so therefore the court couldn't pass judgment, but it recommended that the government obviously create a pathway for this issue to be addressed. And the government took the position that it would create a pathway, but it would be a pathway that was, in large part, respectful of the Cayman Islands Constitution, what the people, believed to be the intent of the Constitution, particularly in the preamble, and also specifically not to change neither the definition of marriage, which in this country still means between a man and a woman, but to allow a mechanism for civil partnerships as a means of equality and recognizing it. Again, I simply say this was an us-on-us issue. To the Privy Council decision, I only asked the question, why bring this up again? This is one of those painful notes in the country. It is, but as I said the other day, you can't lead a country by referendum. Sometimes you elect politicians to lead, and sometimes they have to do just that, lead in unpopular situations. And I stand behind, obviously, the positions we took, but we also lost when the matter came to a vote. But my question is, what is to be gained by having this conversation right now, number one? And number two, since the passage of the civil unions or civil partnership legislation, for those persons who are heterosexual and those persons who may have strong views on this issue, how has that legislation changed your life? How has that legislation impacted your life negatively or positively, either way? I get that perhaps whether it be against your religion, God's law versus man's law, your personal opinion or otherwise, I get all of that. I understand it completely. But at the end of the day, how has your life been negatively impacted if you are heterosexual on the passage of this particular piece of legislation? I don't understand it. But certainly, again, Katina, as a citizen, Miss Anglin, has a right to pursue this case. The Privy Council is the ultimate court. And when anyone believes they don't, have received satisfaction in terms of what they believe to be justice, they have that right to take it that far, and this will be the final court of appeal. We don't know what the Privy Council will rule on, but I'm guessing that they will simply take the same position that the Grand Court and the Appeals Court did, because I don't believe the governor acted outside of his remit. Quite to the contrary, I believe the governor could have, and I was a part of the discussions at that time. The governor could have enacted what the UK wanted to impose on us, which would have changed the marriage law, which would have changed the definition, which would have resulted in a change in the Constitution. We avoided all of that by crafting the legislation, which the governor, to his credit, simply said, you know what, you debated this on these terms, this is what we impose vis-a-vis order in council, nothing else. And I thought that was fair at the time because it could have been a lot worse.
Well, that is definitely a topic, Austin.
Well, it's out there.
It's here.
It's out there. And it may very well have cost me the election because certainly...
You just laid on me, Austin.
It's one of those subjects that you know if you address it, it'll cause you harm and no one's going to like you for it.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I took that same oath that you took, you know, before the speaker's chair to the governor, and it was to represent everyone. And sometimes you elect leaders to lead, and that was leading in a very difficult and certainly unpopular position. But either way, it didn't pass, you know, the approval process. And then the governor came in and did what Section 81 allows him or her to do.
Well, I can tell you, first of all, on the standpoint of, you know, bringing these sort of things that are controversial, as I've said before, when you bring anything, anytime you make a decision as a parliamentarian, you're going to split the room. Well, no matter, you don't have to be a parliamentarian, but it's a good example.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you make a decision, you're going to split the room. And that's why chances are, if you want to stay elected, you will find that the persons who want to stay elected normally don't make a lot of decisions.
Yeah, they don't make any waves.
Yeah, they might make you make a decision, but they're not going to make a decision, and nothing happens.
Yep.
And I have actually seen this. I mean, it's literally you can sit at a table, and let me give you an example. As we work our way up to 6 o'clock, you
got 1 minute left.
Yeah, you sit in a room, and there's a car that needs to be painted. Someone's suggesting red, one suggesting blue, and one suggesting green. But any one of those colors you choose, you are probably going to upset the other two persons unless they're very mature. And unfortunately, people put their opinions like their emotions on their sleeve. And so you choose one color and you pee off the other two. Whereas if you just look at this one and say, red, what an awesome idea. I'm going to have to consider that. And blue, wow, amazing. And yellow. And all of a sudden now 3 of them like you because you seem to be telling them something nice about their idea, but you haven't chose, so you haven't necessarily alienated anyone. And this is the sort of nonsense that happens, and unfortunately, the public seems to accept it.
Quite right. Well, we will pick up this conversation when we return from the BBC News right here only on Bobo 103.1 FM.
Another. Sabotage, Austin.
Sabotage. We're back.
Oh, we're back. Okay, there you go. Sorry.
We're back. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Certainly
it may not have been sabotage. Who knows?
It wasn't sabotage.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, sabotage. That's right. The world is against
Was there a cartoon like that? Sabotage, I say.
Sabotage. Suffered succotash.
Suffered succotash.
That was Sylvester.
It was exit stage right event.
Exit stage right event.
This is
Heavens to Murgatroyd.
They have it out against me. As you were saying, Mr. Harris.
As I was saying before I was taken down a detour, thanks to Statler and Walt. I don't know who's Statler and who's Waldorf, but we're one of them.
I loved how they laughed at people, right?
They were classic.
Yeah.
They were classic. So anyway, back
digress.
to tonight's candidates forum hosted by the Chamber of Commerce. Again, those debates moved to Red Bay tonight, where we anticipate a full house. We have for the PPM, Roy Tatum. For the Cayman Islands National Party, we have Don Thomas. For the Caymanian Community Party, that's easier to say.
Yeah, I told you.
To say
Take the T off of it.
To go with it. We have Miss Natasha Whitelock, and then we have two independent candidates, Mr. Philip Ebanks and then Mr. Leon Gold will be there. I think it's a good opportunity to highlight. I'm glad to see that the debates will, in fact, take place tonight. But coming up next week, Wednesday, here on Straight Talk, we will host that Red Bay candidate, Mr. Philip Ebanks, here as our guest in studios when we have them on the political table to hear more of their views, their priorities, should they be elected. And we want to encourage members of the public.
And the good thing about that one is that we can be a little bit more expose on that one, considering that he's already had the debate.
Quite right.
I don't have to worry about, aiding his opponents in the debate. And hopefully we'll get Mr. Heyman back now as well on that particular note.
Absolutely. That was a good conversation last time. We said so at the beginning of the show, but I don't mind repeating it. I thought Mr. Heyman Rankin did a fantastic job yesterday. We are going to pause, take our final commercial break for the evening, but don't even think about changing that dial. There'll be more Straight Talk still to come on Bobo 103.1 FM.
More Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio coming up. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Bobo FM.
Hey man, could it be you? Tortuga's 10K giveaway is back, and someone's walking away with $10,000 in cash. Every time you spend $25 at Tortuga Fine Wine and Spirits or discount liquors, in-store or online at tortuga.ky, you get a shot at winning big. As well as $10,000 in cash, we've got thousands in giveaways to hand out every week. Think staycations, the latest iPhones, exclusive experiences, and more. Get in to win. Visit tortuga.ky for the full terms and conditions.
The countdown is on for Capella Music Festival on Saturday, March 29th at the Festival Green, Camana Bay. An unforgettable experience and non-stop entertainment presented by Cayman Airways and Camana Bay, featuring international stars Ashanti, Clean Bandit, Gramps Morgan, Kamani Marley, and Elaine, Nyla Blackman, and DJ Puffy, alongside local artists and DJs across 3 stages. Purchase at Tier 1 pricing while supplies last at CapellaMusicFestival.com or in-store at Blackbeard's, AA Rubus, FIS MoneyGram, Winter Circle, Tortuga, and Sings Roadie Shop. Capella Music Festival, Saturday, March 29th. A true festival experience. Brought to you by the Cayman Islands Department of Tourism, the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Hopscotch Productions, Bacardi, Massive Equipment, Barreau Development, and Stingray Media.
Welcome back to Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio. Have your say on 745-2626. Bobo FM.
And welcome back, Cayman, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM, where the countdown is now on. 4 minutes, 45 seconds before we have to wrap it up for today. But since we're always striving to catch this right at the very tail end, it's probably a good opportunity to remind folks now to encourage folks to tune into Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio each and every weekday evening from 4:30 to 6:30. That's Monday to Friday, right here on Bobo 103.1 FM. We also are simulcasting live on YouTube and on Instagram. And as far as Instagram is concerned, I was informed something which I did not know. You recall we were using, obviously, the Rec Room 345 until we acquired the necessary number of followers that Meta required. Well, apparently, we've reached that number of followers on Instagram as well.
Okay.
So we're no longer using the Rec Room 345 on Instagram, but to the contrary, you can find us at Straight Talk Radio Show from our own platform.
Awesome, man.
So we are streaming on Instagram from our own base, as opposed to, again, borrowing one of our media partners who, again, has been terrific to us. Want to send a shout out to Monster Media, one of our collaborators in bringing this show and making this show possible, both online as well as on your radio dial. 745-2626 is the number. I guess really not a lot of time to introduce new information, so maybe it's a good opportunity. Tomorrow is the end of the week, Friday, yes. As we highlighted earlier on, we are hoping to potentially have a guest with us tomorrow. I preempt that by saying I haven't made the connection yet, but I will be doing so, and hopefully it will receive a favorable response. But we will be extending an invitation to the Cayman Islands Crisis Center to be our guest tomorrow to talk about, obviously, the important work that organization is doing as we continue to honor International Women's Month here in the Cayman Islands that we began on the Monday after International Women's Day, which was the 8th of March. So tomorrow, potentially, we will have an opportunity to chat with the Crisis Center. But then, big drum roll, big moment, really what is going to be very clearly, thank you, a spectacular discussion. We had to reschedule it. It was going to be our Friday show, but we had to be flexible, and it will now be our Monday show. We look forward to, we will be hosting prominent local attorney, Mr. Anthony Travers.
Yep.
And we will be engaging in a conversation on that ticklish subject of beneficial ownership and those public registries, which the UK were pushing on the Cayman Islands for many, many a year. And we were fighting it as best as we could. But now the U.S. Treasury has made a decision that may very well win the battle for us. Who knows? But certainly Mr. Travers will be our guest on Monday, right at 4:30. And we encourage you, the listening audience, to tune into that conversation. So financial services, one way or the other, will be on display. And arguably...
It's like Money Monday.
Money Monday. I like that. I like that. Now we just need to get ourselves a good financial services sponsor. Maybe, include a financial services segment.
It's Money Monday, Austin.
It's Money Monday. Bigly show. You don't want to miss it. Very bigly. Very important. The best you've ever heard.
You're doing
the best
great.
you've ever heard. 1 minute remaining. Ellio, an opportunity for some closing comments.
All I have to say, Austin, is a pleasure working with you. And I thank God that I was able to wake up this morning healthy and strong as usual. And I want to say to all of you persons out there listening, we greatly appreciate it. Kindly ask you to share us with all of your friends and family members. And let's get the viewership increase so Austin and I can stay here for a good long time.
Yes.
And I can get to focus to do nothing else other than to digest the issues and give you some good information to fulfill our objective, which is to educate, enlighten, and to elevate.
Absolutely, and I, too, want to echo those sentiments. It is a pleasure to continue to work with you again, Ellio. And certainly to the last point, you have been instrumental on the sales front. You, again, we wouldn't have had such a successful first-month launch had it not been for your efforts. But clearly,
sweet.
Those other duties that you have on your day job are taking away from that. So I'm looking forward to the day where you have only one day job, and that's Straight Talk right here on Bobo 103.